Papina Padma Patra Ivam Basha. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering to the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. Text 11. Kayena manasya budya kevalaya indraya api yogina karma kurvanti sangyam chityatvatma sudhari. The yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses, only for the purpose of purification. Text 12. Yukta kama palam tayatva satyam apnino nashchitkam akuta kama karina pale sakto nibaryate. Translation: the steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all of his activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. Text 13. Sarva kamani manasya sanyasyate suktatvasi navadravai puryedehe naiva karnanat karyan. Translation: when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Text 14. Na karitvam na kamani lokshaya srijati prahu na karma pala samyogam sabhafastu pavate. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Text 15. Nandatati kasyatit papam nachaiva sukrat vidnam agyana nevatram gyanam tevam yati jantava. Translation: nor does the Supreme Spirit assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Our final text this evening, text 16. Ganina tutad adgyanam yesham nashitam atmana tesham hatyavati gyanam prakshakyati taparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which science is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Turning to text 5. Text 5, translation, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One who knows that the position reached by the means of renunciation can also be attained by the works of devotional service, and who therefore sees that the path of works and the path of renunciation are one, sees things as they are. Report. The real purpose of philosophical research is to find the ultimate goal of life. Since the ultimate goal of life is self-realization, there is no difference between the conclusions reached by the two processes. Sankhya philosophy, philosophical research, one comes to the conclusion that a living entity is not a part and parcel of the material world, but of the Supreme Spirit whole. Consequently, the spirit soul has nothing to do with the material world. His actions must be in some relation with the Supreme. When he acts in Krishna consciousness, he is actually in his constitutional position. In the first process of Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter, and in the devotional yoga process, one has to attach himself to the work of Krishna. Factually, both processes are the same, although superficially one process appears to involve detachment and the other process appears to involve attachment. However, detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. One who can see this sees things as they are. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare. Om Hare Krishna, Hare. One who knows that the position reached by the means of renunciation can be also attained by the works of devotional service, and one who therefore sees that the path of works and the path of renunciation are one, sees things as they are. I like that in the last sentence, however, here in the purport. However, detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. Think about that. You detach yourself from matter, what else is there? It's Krishna. Renunciation, path of devotional service. It's karma yoga action and Krishna consciousness. All of our actions, as we know, bind us to one thing or another. If we are acting in the material world, acting upon our material senses, we're becoming entangled in the material world, further binding us. The more we act, the more we are bound. The more that we are pursuing our sense enjoyment, the more that we are actually creating our own suffering. We are the creators of our own hell, and we are the creators of our own heaven. And that's something to think about. Krishna is so merciful. He's given us this free choice. You serve him, or try to serving ourselves and try to enjoy our senses. But when we're not acting in our constitutional position, not trying to please Krishna, and trying to serve ourselves, this creates suffering. It's only by being part of the supreme whole and becoming the servant can one enjoy, also partake in the enjoyment of Krishna. You can't enjoy separately from Krishna. You can't do that. It just creates suffering. You know, Krishna has given us this ability to try it for ourselves. Check it out. Here's this material world. Maya is in charge. And Maya is continually poking us and prodding us, testing us, making sure we're not totally comfortable, because eventually, you know, Krishna wants us back. He wants us, he loves us all. His mercy, you can't escape his mercy. You can try running from it, but you can't escape his mercy. You know, this material world is part of his mercy. So the more that we try to please our senses, the more that we are, as I was saying, creating our own suffering, creating our own hell. And it's interesting to, you know, when one comes in contact with Krishna consciousness and, you know, gets awakened with this knowledge, surrenders to her spiritual master, and partakes in the activities of Krishna consciousness, spreading it, realizes there's all these other conditioned souls out there that are just out there that are suffering. Many are suffering, they don't even realize they're suffering. Only thing we can do is chant Hare Krishna. You know, do Harinam out in public so they can hear. Many ways, I don't know if anyone, grew up, managing pets. But, I had a cat and a dog growing up. And, the dog would think it's tasty to go into the cat's litter box and eat the feces. He loved it. No matter how hard I tried to explain to the dog that is nasty, don't eat that, the dog just did not understand. At the same time, that's just pretty much what we're dealing with when we're chanting Hare Krishna, doing Harinam, and watching someone eating a hamburger. Don't eat that. That's nasty. But they don't understand. That's what I envision. That's on the same level that I envision when I see these things. Someone smoking a cigarette. No, don't do that. That's nasty. Spit that out. Gornitai ki jai. And we can't, run up to them with a baseball bat. Stop! Spit that out! Don't do that! And beat them with a bat. And we're really going to be seen as cruel and inhumane. So the Lord gave us a most appropriate way to deal with this. Chant Hare Krishna. Sankirtan movement, sing the holy names of the Lord. Even though they're eating that nasty burger, no matter how much you try to explain to them, that's just nasty. Just spit it out. You can sing Hare Krishna while they eat it, while they smoke their cigarettes. Well, they listen to their, rock music. But action in Krishna consciousness, it's totally different from the material world. Because as we see, with actions within Krishna consciousness become pure nectar. Becomes, oh, so sweet. And when we engage our material senses, it's a complete opposite. It seems like nectar up front. You get this a little bit dose of happiness, engaging your senses up front. But in the long run, it becomes a vice because you continue to have to try to please these senses over and over and over again. It's like one that takes pleasure in drinking alcohol. In the end, that becomes a poison to them. And then they find themselves in a position they can't put it down. Same thing with smoking. Cigarettes, marijuana, crack, all kinds of drugs. Same thing with eating food. Anything can become addiction in this world. And the fact of the matter is, all of us are addicted to this material world. Just like the dog eating the cat's turd, You know, we're fighting these addictions. We're learning that, oh yes, that stuff is nasty. We don't want to eat. We don't want to eat that. No. But action in Krishna consciousness is what frees us of these material entanglements. Text 6. Unless one is engaged in devotional service of the Lord, mere renunciation of activities cannot make one happy. The sages purified by works of devotion achieve the supreme without delay. Purport. There are two classes of sannyasis, or persons in the renounced order of life. The Mayavadi sannyasis are engaged in the study of the Sankhya philosophy, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis are engaged in the study of Bhagavatam philosophy, which affords a proper commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Mayavadi sannyasis also study the Vedanta Sutra, but use their own commentary called the Sariraka Bhashya, written by Sankaracharya. The students of the Bhagavad school are engaged in devotional service of the Lord according to Pancharikti regulations, and therefore the Vaishnava sannyasi have multiple engagements in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Vaishnava sannyasis have nothing to do with material activities, yet they perform various activities in their devotional service to the Lord. But the Mayavadi sannyasis engaged in the studies of Sankhya and Vedanta speculation cannot relish transcendental service of the Lord, because their studies become very tedious. They sometimes become tired of Brahman speculation, and thus they take shelter in the Bhagavatam without proper understanding. Consequently, their study of the Srimad Bhagavatam becomes troublesome. Dry speculation and personal interpretation by artificial means are all useless for the Mayavadi sannyasis. The Vaishnava sannyasis, or who are engaged in devotional service, are happy in the discharge of their transcendental duties, and they have the guarantee of ultimate entrance into the kingdom of God. The Mayavadi sannyasis sometimes fall down from the path of self-realization, and again enter in material activities of philanthropic and altruistic nature, which are nothing but material engagements. Therefore, the conclusion is that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are better situated than the sannyasis engaged in simple Brahman speculation, although they too come to Krishna consciousness after many births. Text 7. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Purport. One who's on the path of liberation by Krishna consciousness is very dear to every living being, and every living being is dear to him. This is due to his Krishna consciousness. Such a person cannot think of any living being as separate from Krishna. Just as the leaves and branches of a tree are not separate from the tree, he knows very well that by pouring water on the root of the tree, the water will be distributed to all the leaves and branches. Or by supplying food to the stomach, the energy is automatically distributed throughout the body. Because one who works in Krishna consciousness is servant to all, he is very dear to everyone, because everyone is satisfied by his work. He is pure in consciousness. Because he is pure in consciousness, his mind is completely controlled. Because his mind is controlled, his senses are also controlled. Because his mind is always fixed on Krishna, there is no chance of him being deviated from Krishna. nor is there a chance that he will engage his senses in matters other than the service of the Lord. He does not like to hear anything except topics relating to Krishna. He does not like to eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. He does not wish to go anywhere if Krishna is not involved. Therefore, his senses are controlled. A man of controlled senses cannot be offensive to anyone. One may ask, why then was Arjuna offensive in battle to others? Wasn't he in Krishna consciousness? Arjuna was the only superficially offensive because, as has already been explained in the second chapter, all the assembled persons on the battlefield will continue to live individually, as a soul cannot be slain. So spiritually, no one was killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only their dresses were changed by the order of Krishna, who was personally present. Therefore, Arjuna, while fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was not really fighting at all. He was simply carrying out the orders of Krishna in full Krishna consciousness. Such a person is never entangled in the reactions of work. And that's what we're trying to achieve in practicing bhakti yoga. To control our senses. To control the mind. So that taking shelter in the Maha Mantra is so important. So we're doing our rounds in the morning. I stress on this a lot. We're trying to maintain our awareness on the mantra alone. We're shifting our awareness from what we're used to following our thoughts all the time, having the mind be in control, saying, "Hey, I want to do this. Let's go do that. I'm hungry. Let's go eat. I'm too hot. I'm too cold." The mind is always telling us what to do, and our awareness is generally focused on all these thoughts. But it's important for training in the mind in Krishna consciousness, the Maha Mantra, that as we're doing the mantra, we're focusing on the mantra. When these thoughts arise, you recognize that the thought is there, but you don't follow it. You bring yourself back to the mantra. You do this over and over and over again. It's very tedious at first. Because we're so used to being on this mental platform, so used to just being caught up in our own thoughts all the time. It's a different aspect of where we're putting our awareness, where we're putting our consciousness, we're choosing to be consciously aware of. So we were putting our awareness on the Maha Mantra alone. We're putting our awareness on Krishna. We're putting our awareness and consciousness on God, not on our material thoughts. And it's through this practice of training the mind to be aware of the mantra alone. That's where the nectar begins to rise. Because once you have trained your awareness to stick to the mantra, instead of to all these thoughts that are continually always going on in the mind, you're attaching yourself to Krishna. You're attaching yourself to love. And everything starts becoming oh so sweet. Devotional service becomes pure nectar. It doesn't matter what I'm doing as long as I'm doing it for Krishna. I could be sweeping the floor. I'm happy. I could be doing the dishes. I'm happy. I can be cooking in a very hot kitchen. I'm still happy. So I'm absorbed in the Maha Mantra. My mind's on that. It's not on these ridiculous thoughts and having these thoughts control me. It's like, oh, it's too hot. Oh, I'd much rather be watching TV. Oh, I'd much rather be outside. I'd much rather be sleeping. I'd much rather be doing something else. Because that's what happens when we're caught on the mental platform. We get controlled by our mind. And the mind is so powerful. And the pharmaceutical industry knows how powerful the mind is. That's why they have, when they do these studies, these test runs of new drugs, they have test groups, controlled test groups. Some get a placebo, which is just basically a water pill. It does nothing at all. But the mind is so powerful that people thinking that they're getting a pill that's helping them, they actually improve in health. The mind's that powerful. They temporarily improve, and they actually feel better taking this pill that does nothing. The placebo effect. You have any insight into that as a doctor? Yeah, but that's medical industry. They recognize it. Yeah. So it's very easy if we're stuck on the mental platform. It's very easy to be controlled by your thoughts. Very easy to have a thought, a thought comes up that makes you angry. Thought that comes up that makes you scared. Thought comes up that makes you sick. The mind is very powerful. It's when I talk about when it comes to this material world, if we don't have control over our mind, it doesn't matter what our environment is around us. It really doesn't matter. If we don't have control over the mind, we could be in the lap of luxury and be miserable. So many great personalities have been through this. Elvis Presley, king of rock and roll. Name, fame, prestige, wealth. Ended up having to do drugs to stay happy. He was surrounded by luxury. He had people worshiping him. But stuck on the mental platform, he was having to resort to drugs, which would end up taking his life. Michael Jackson, king of pop. Name, fame, wealth, prestige, everything. Same thing. He was hooked on prescription drugs. Was surrounded in the lap of luxury. But his mind was unhappy. His mind caused him distress. Robin Williams. I always like to bring Robin Williams. I grew up watching Robin Williams. He was a great hero of mine, He was a natural comedian, great actor, Brought joy and laughter to millions of people. But he also struggled with his own mind. He ended up taking his own life. So when it comes to the mind controlling the senses, it's so important. If If we want peace, if we want real peace, devotional service is where it's at. Maha Mantra, doing our 16 rounds a day, truly doing them where our awareness is on the mantra alone, training it. That's where you get all the nectar. Move on to the next text. 8 and 9. A person in divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, opening, or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. Purport. A person of Krishna consciousness is pure in his existence, and consequently he has nothing to do with any work which depends upon 5 immediate and remote causes: the doer, the work, the situation, the endeavor, and the fortune. This is because he is engaged in the loving transcendental service of Krishna. Although he appears to be acting with his body and senses, he is always conscious of his actual position, which is spiritual engagement. In material consciousness, the senses are engaged in sense gratification, but in Krishna consciousness, the senses are engaged in the satisfaction of Krishna senses. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person is always free, even though he appears to be engaged in things of the senses. Activities such as seeing, hearing, speaking, evacuating, etc. are actions of the senses, meant for work. A Krishna conscious person is never affected by the actions of the senses. He cannot perform any act except in the service of the Lord, because he knows that he is the eternal servitor of the Lord. Text 10. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering to the results unto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as a lotus leaf is untouched by water. Purport. Here, Brahmani means in Krishna consciousness. The material world is a sum total manifestation of the 3 modes of material nature, technically called pradhana. The Vedic hymns, Sarvam Etad Brahman Tajmad Etad Brahma Nama Rupam Ana Cha Jayati, and the Bhagavad Gita, Mama Yono Mahad Brahma, indicate that everything in the material world is a manifestation of Brahman. And although the effects are differently manifested, they are non-different from the cause. The Upanishad is said that everything is related to the Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and thus everything belongs to him only. One who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that he is the proprietor of everything, and that, therefore, everything is engaged in the service of the Lord, naturally has nothing to do with the results of his activities. Whereas, whether virtuous or sinful, even one's material body being a gift to the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. It is beyond contamination by sinful reaction, exactly as a lotus leaf, though remaining in the water is not wet. The Lord always says in the Gita, Mayi Sarvani Karmani Sannyasi, resign all works unto me, Krishna. The conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of the material body and senses. But a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should therefore be engaged in the service of Krishna. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments so far? Yes, Prabhu. Microphone, please. Where's all the microphones at? Well, go get it. Oh, Prabhu, that's okay. You know, just snap your fingers, and we have the servant, Dr. Caleb, will bring it to you.
I was just thinking about the lotus leaf being untouched by water. I thought it was nice because in the Bhajan Bhajahurimana, there is a line in there that says Kamala Dalajala Jivana Talamala. And what that means is that this life is tottering like a drop of water on the lotus leaf. So I thought it was nice because, you know, this is poetry. Krishna is speaking poetry as we right in front of our eyes, and what's his name, Govinda Das was also speaking poetry about this particular verse kind of thing.
Very nice. Any other questions or comments? Do one last verse here. Yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even with the senses only for the purpose of purification. Purport. By acting in Krishna consciousness for the satisfaction of the senses of Krishna, any action, whether of the body, mind, intelligence, or even of the senses, is purified of material contamination. There are no material reactions resulting from the activities of Krishna conscious persons. Therefore, purified activities, which are generally called sarachara, can be easily performed by acting in Krishna consciousness. Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasmita Sindhu describes this as follows. Iha yasya hirdatasye kamana manasya kara nikilas apiyas avashtasu jivan mukta satsa uchate. Person acting Krishna consciousness, or in other words, the service of Krishna, with his body, mind, intelligence, and words, is a liberated person even within the material world. Although he may be engaged in many so-called material activities, he has no false ego, nor does he believe that he is the material body, nor that he possesses the body. He knows that he is not the body, and this body does not belong to him. He himself belongs to Krishna, and the body too belongs to Krishna. When he applies everything produced of the body, mind, intelligence, words, life, wealth, etc., whatever he may have within his possession to Krishna's service, he is at once dovetailed with Krishna. He is one with Krishna, and he is devoid of the false ego that leads one to believe that he is the body, etc. This is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. Bhagavad Gita ki jai!